abandoned at the altar. Her billionaire boss murmurs, "Let me be the groom tonight." Hello everyone. Before we begin today's story, I have a small favor to ask. Please hit subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss our channel's new videos. It is quick, it is free, and it is the best way to support us in bringing you more dramatic stories like this one. Your support truly means the world to us. Where are you watching from right now? Drop your city or country in the comments below. Thank you very much. Now, let us go back to our main character. The church is quiet in a way that feels wrong. Not peaceful. Not sacred. Just heavy. The kind of silence that presses against your ears and makes every breath sound too loud. All eyes are fixed on the front pew, where a young woman stands alone in a white dress that suddenly feels heavier than it should. Her name is Emily Carter. The aisle behind her is empty. The doors at the back of the church remain closed. The string quartet has stopped playing. The minister clears his throat once, then looks down at his notes, unsure what to do next. Someone coughs. Somewhere in the crowd, a phone vibrates and is quickly silenced. Emily keeps her eyes forward. She does not turn around again. She already knows what she will see if she does. Nothing. Her fingers tighten around the small bouquet in her hands. The roses were supposed to be ivory. They look pale gray now, at least to her. Her heartbeat is so loud it feels like it might echo through the room. Then, her phone vibrates. Once, she should not look. She knows she should not look. But her hands move anyway, almost on their own. She lowers the bouquet just enough to see the screen. One message. From the man who was supposed to be standing beside her. "I cannot do this. I am sorry." That is it. No explanation, no call, no goodbye. Just 12 words that split her world in half. A murmur ripples through the guests as her shoulders stiffen. Someone in the front row whispers her name. Another guest turns to look toward the entrance, as if the groom might still burst through the doors at the last second, out of breath, full of apologies. He does not. Emily feels the heat rush to her face, not from tears, from humiliation, from the sudden, brutal awareness that every person in this room is watching her be left behind in real time. This wedding was not just about love. It was about survival. Her family had poured everything into this day. Her mother had borrowed money she did not have. Her father had swallowed his pride more times than Emily could count. This wedding was supposed to mean stability, safety, a future that did not involve constant fear of the next bill, the next emergency. And now it is collapsing in front of everyone she knows. The minister leans toward her and whispers softly, asking if she would like to take a moment. Emily cannot answer. Her throat has closed completely. That is when she feels it. A presence behind her. Not a hand. Not a touch. Just the unmistakable awareness that someone has stood up. The sound of polished shoes against stone breaks the silence. One step, then another. The guests turn, confused. Emily does not. A familiar voice reaches her, low and controlled, close enough that only she can hear it. "Do not move," the voice says. Calm. Steady. Nothing like the chaos exploding inside her chest. "Just listen to me." Her breath catches. She knows that voice. Daniel Wright, her boss, the billionaire CEO of the company where she works as an assistant. The man who signs checks with numbers she cannot even imagine. The man who was never supposed to be here today. Sitting quietly in the back row out of politeness, out of distance, out of a life that exists in a completely different world from hers. He leans closer, his presence shielding her from the hundreds of eyes burning into her back. "Emily," he murmurs, his voice so low it almost feels unreal. "If you walk out of here alone, this moment will follow you for the rest of your life." Her hands begin to shake. "I can fix this," he continues, just as quietly. "But you have to trust me." She swallows hard, staring straight ahead at the altar that was supposed to mark the beginning of her forever. "Pretend I am the groom," Daniel whispers. "Just for tonight. The whisper still echoes in Emily Carter's ears long after the words are spoken. Pretend I am the groom. For a brief, terrifying second, she does nothing. She does not turn. She does not nod. She does not breathe. Her mind is racing too fast to form a single clear thought. All she can feel is the weight of the moment pressing down on her chest. If she says no, this wedding ends right now. Not quietly, not gently. It ends with her walking down the aisle alone, past rows of stunned faces, past relatives who scraped together every dollar they had, past friends who will never forget the look on her face. It ends with whispers that will follow her for years, with pity, with judgment, with the unspoken question of what she did wrong to be left at the altar. And there is more than pride at stake. Emily's family is not wealthy. They never have been. Her parents took out loans they could barely qualify for just to make this day happen. Her mother postponed a medical procedure. Her father worked overtime for months, coming home exhausted and pretending everything was fine. This wedding was supposed to be proof that all of that sacrifice meant something. If this falls apart, there is no backup plan. She will be going home to debt, to disappointment, to a future that suddenly looks much smaller and much darker than it did this morning. Her fingers tighten around the bouquet again, so hard that the stems press painfully into her palms. Behind her, Daniel Wright waits. He does not rush her. He does not repeat himself. He stands there, steady and unmoving, like a wall she could lean against if she dared. For years, he has been exactly this way at work, calm during crises, unshaken when everyone else panics. The kind of man who makes decisions that change entire companies without raising his voice. But this is different. This is her life. Slowly, Emily turns her head just enough to see him out of the corner of her eye. His expression is serious, not dramatic. There is no trace of amusement, no hint that this is a game. If anything, he looks prepared for her to refuse. "You do not have to do this," he murmurs, honest and low. "I will understand if you walk away." That almost breaks her, because it tells her something important. He is not offering this to control her. He is offering it to give her a choice when she has none left. Her heart pounds so hard she feels lightheaded. If she accepts, she will be stepping into a lie so large it could swallow her whole. She will be standing beside one of the most powerful men in the city, pretending to be something she is not. She will be exposed to scrutiny she has never faced before. One wrong move, one slip, and everything will unravel. But if she refuses, the damage is immediate and permanent. Emily draws in a shaky breath. She thinks of her mother in the front row, hands clasped tightly together. Of her father, sitting stiffly, jaw clenched, trying not to look around. Of the months leading up to this day, when she told herself that this wedding was the beginning of stability. She lifts her chin. Very slightly, almost imperceptibly, she nods. Daniel exhales, slow and controlled, as if he has been holding his breath this entire time. "All right," he says quietly. "Just follow my lead." Before she can second-guess herself, he steps forward. A hand settles at the small of her back, firm but respectful. The gesture alone sends another ripple through the room. Heads turn. Whispers rise. Confused and uncertain. Daniel faces the minister, his posture confident, unquestionable. "I apologize for the delay," he says evenly. "We are ready to continue." The minister blinks, clearly startled, but years of ceremony take over. He nods, uncertain but compliant. Emily stands there, heart racing, arm linked with a man she was never supposed to marry, realizing that in one silent nod, she has crossed a line there is no easy way back from, and she has no idea what this decision is about to cost her. The ceremony ends in a blur that Emily Carter can barely process. There is polite applause, confused applause, the kind people give when they are not entirely sure what they just witnessed. But social instinct tells them to clap anyway. Someone snaps a photo. Someone else whispers a question that goes unanswered. By the time Emily realizes it, a ring is already on her finger. It is simple, elegant, cold against her skin. Daniel Wright does not smile for the crowd. He does not perform. He simply places his hand over hers, steady and controlled, as if this were the most natural thing in the world to anyone watching. It looks convincing, too convincing. But the moment they step away from the altar and into a quiet side room, the air changes. The door closes softly behind them, shutting out the murmurs of the guests. The silence inside the room is different now, tense, uncertain. Emily finally pulls her hand back. Her breath comes fast. Her chest rises and falls as she tries to ground herself in reality. "That actually just happened," she says, more to herself than to him. Daniel nods once. "Yes, two had, not Cobain-sided Brack." She turns to face him fully. The weight of the dress, the ring, the last 5 minutes crashing down all at once. "I need to understand what this is," she says. "Right now." "You will," he replies calmly. "But first, I need you to know something." He meets her eyes, his voice lowering. This was not an emotional decision. It was a practical one. For both of us. That word makes her stiffen. Practical. He continues, choosing each word carefully. "You needed a way out of a public collapse. I needed to prevent a situation that would have turned into a media disaster within hours." Her stomach drops. "Media disaster?" Daniel exhales. "My presence here was not as private as I hoped. There are people who would have noticed you leaving alone. Questions would have followed. Speculation spreads quickly." Emily absorbs that in silence. "So this is damage control," she says quietly. "In part," he admits, "but not only for me." He gestures toward the door. "If you had walked out alone, your humiliation would have been permanent. That is not something I was willing to let happen if I could stop it." She studies his face, searching for pity, for condescension, for anything that would make this feel worse. There is none. "All right," she says slowly. "Then tell me the rules." Daniel does not hesitate. He reaches into the inner pocket of his jacket and pulls out a slim folder. He sets it on the table between them, unopened. "This is a temporary arrangement," he says. "A contract marriage, nothing more." Emily stares at the folder. "How long?" she asks. 12 months, he replies. "That gives us time to control the narrative. After that, we separate cleanly. And until then we play our roles publicly." She takes a steady breath. "Define roles. We attend necessary events together. We appear united. We do not contradict each other in public. Beyond that, there are boundaries." 9. He opens the folder but does not slide it toward her yet. "There will be no physical intimacy," he says firmly. "No expectations of affection behind closed doors. Separate bedrooms, separate private lives." She lets out a breath she did not realize she was holding. "And love?" she asks, her voice steady despite the irony of the word. Daniel meets her gaze. "There will be none. Not real. Not promised. Not implied." Good, she thinks. Because anything else would be dangerous. "And if one of us wants out early?" she asks. "Then we end it respectfully, in private, when it causes the least harm." Emily nods slowly. "This is not romance. This is survival, structured and controlled." She looks down at the ring on her finger again. 1 year, she says. "Then this ends." "Yes," Daniel replies. She reaches for the folder. "Then, let us be clear," she says softly. "I am not here to pretend I belong to your world. I am here to get through this without losing myself." Man, for the first time, something shifts in Daniel's expression. Respect, genuine and unguarded. "That," he says quietly, "is exactly why this can work." The weeks that follow feel unreal to Emily Carter, as if she has stepped into someone else's life and is trying to keep up. It starts quietly. Daniel arranges a temporary residence for her, close enough to his own penthouse that appearances can be managed, but separate, exactly as promised. The apartment is tasteful, understated, and far more expensive than anything Emily has ever lived in. The first night, she sleeps on the edge of the bed, hands folded over her stomach, staring at the ceiling, reminding herself that this is not a fairy tale. It is an agreement. Mornings begin early. There are fittings, meetings, a stylist who speaks kindly but efficiently, explaining which colors photograph well and which silhouettes command respect in a room full of powerful people. Emily stands still as dresses are adjusted and shoes are measured, feeling like a mannequin that has somehow been mistaken for a woman who belongs here. She learns quickly. She learns how to walk beside Daniel without rushing or falling behind, how to listen more than she speaks, but never shrink, how to meet someone's eyes, smile once, and let silence do the rest. At first, she feels clumsy, hyper-aware of every movement. She worries that someone will notice her nerves, her uncertainty, and call her out. But no one does. At their first public dinner, a woman across the table makes a thinly veiled comment about Emily's background. It is meant to test her. Emily feels the sting, sharp and familiar, but she does not react the way she once might have. She answers calmly, honestly, without apology. She talks about hard work, about learning quickly, about being grateful for opportunities without sounding small. The table falls quiet. Daniel does not interrupt. He does not rescue her. He watches, attentive, letting her stand on her own. Later, in the car, he glances at her and says simply, "You handled that well. It should not matter as much as it does, but it does." Their days become a rhythm, public appearances balanced carefully with private distance. In public, Daniel places a hand at her back, a subtle signal of unity. In private, he keeps his word, always respectful, always controlled. They speak over late dinners about schedules, obligations, and expectations. Sometimes, unexpectedly, they talk about nothing at all. Emily learns small things about him: that he drinks his coffee black, no sugar, that he prefers early mornings to late nights, that he listens more than he speaks because he learned long ago that people reveal themselves when given space. Daniel, in turn, notices things about her. He notices that she thanks everyone, from drivers to assistants, by name, that she remembers details others dismiss, that she never pretends to know something she does not, but asks questions without shame. At one event, when a server drops a tray and freezes in panic, Emily is the first to move. She kneels, helps gather the fallen glasses, murmuring reassurance. The room barely notices, but Daniel does. Something shifts then, subtle but undeniable. This was supposed to be performance, a carefully managed illusion. Yet Emily is not acting. She is simply being herself. And somehow, that is enough. One evening, standing beside him on a balcony overlooking the city, Emily exhales slowly. "I feel like I am learning how to exist in two worlds at once," she says. Daniel looks out at the skyline. "You are not disappearing in either of them," he replies. She glances at him, surprised. For the first time since the church, Emily wonders if this arrangement is changing them both in ways neither of them planned. The first real test comes sooner than Emily Carter expects. It arrives in the form of a black envelope, delivered by courier, embossed with gold lettering and Daniel Wright's name. Inside is an invitation to the annual Wright Industries Charity Gala, one of the most visible events of the year. Press, investors, board members, the kind of night where appearances are not just noticed, they are analyzed. Emily reads the card twice, her pulse quickening. "This is not optional, is it?" she asks. Daniel shakes his head. "No, this is one we cannot avoid." The night of the gala, the building glows against the city skyline, a glass tower filled with light and quiet power. As their car pulls up, flashes erupt immediately. Cameras, voices calling Daniel's name. Questions shouted into the night. Emily feels the familiar tightening in her chest, but she does not hesitate. Daniel steps out first, then offers his hand. She takes it. Inside, the room hums with controlled energy. Everyone is dressed impeccably. Conversations overlap, sharp and polished. Eyes turn toward them as they enter. Curiosity sharp behind practiced smiles. At first, everything goes smoothly. Emily stays close, greeting people as Daniel introduces her. She listens carefully, responding when spoken to, never interrupting, never retreating. She can feel the scrutiny, the unspoken calculations happening in real time. Then she notices her. Victoria Hale, a board member. Wealthy, influential, known for never missing a weakness. Victoria approaches with a smile that does not reach her eyes. "So," Victoria says lightly, her gaze sweeping over Emily, "you are the surprise bride." Emily meets her eyes calmly. "Yes." Victoria tilts her head. "It must have been overwhelming. Such a sudden change of circumstances. The implication hangs in the air. You do not belong here." Emily senses the small circle forming around them, people pretending not to listen while absorbing every word. "It was unexpected," Emily replies evenly. "But life rarely gives notice before it changes." Victoria's smile tightens. "Of course, some people adjust better than others. This is the moment." Emily could deflect. She could retreat behind Daniel. She could pretend not to understand the insult. She does none of those things. "I believe adjustment has more to do with character than background," Emily says, her voice steady. "Anyone can learn etiquette. Not everyone chooses kindness." Over the second, the silence is immediate. A few guests shift uncomfortably. Someone clears their throat. Victoria's expression flickers. Just for a second, Daniel says nothing. He does not interrupt. He does not step in. He simply places his hand at Emily's back, a quiet show of support, and lets her words stand. "Well," Victoria says after a moment, forcing a laugh, "that is refreshingly direct." Emily smiles politely. "I find it saves time." "Job." The conversation dissolves, people drifting away with renewed interest in their drinks. Later, near the balcony, Emily finally exhales. "I think I just made an enemy," she says quietly. Daniel looks at her, something unreadable in his eyes. "You did not," he replies. "You made a boundary." She studies him. "You did not stop me." "I did not need to," he says. "You handled it with dignity." Across the room, a group of investors nods toward them, murmuring approval. The message is clear. Emily did not embarrass him. She strengthened his position. For the first time that evening, Daniel feels it fully. This woman beside him is not a liability. She is an asset. And for reasons he cannot yet explain, that realization matters more than it should. The gala ends later than Emily Carter expects. By the time they step back into the car, the city lights feel softer, less sharp than they did when the night began. The tension that had wrapped itself around her shoulders slowly loosens, replaced by a quiet exhaustion. Neither of them speaks at first. The driver pulls away from the curb, the hum of the engine filling the silence. Emily watches the buildings pass by, their reflections sliding across the window like something distant and untouchable. "You were very calm tonight," Daniel says at last. She lets out a small breath. "I did not feel calm, but you were," he replies. "There is a difference." End quote. She turns to look at him. He is not smiling, not analyzing. He sounds almost thoughtful. "Thank you for not stepping in," she says. "With Victoria." Daniel nods once. "You did not need saving." The words land more heavily than she expects. Back at the building, they ride the elevator up in silence. When the doors open onto the quiet hallway, the noise of the night finally falls away completely. The world narrows to just the two of them and the soft lighting above. They stop near the balcony doors, the city spread out below like a living thing. Emily steps outside, resting her hands on the railing. The cool air feels grounding. Daniel joins her a moment later, keeping a respectful distance. "I used to think moments like that were about power," she says quietly. "Standing your ground. Winning. And now?" he asks. "Now I think they are about not losing yourself," she replies. Daniel considers that. The city reflects in his eyes, distant and bright. "You surprised a lot of people tonight," he says. "So did you." He looks at her then. "How?" "You let me speak for myself," she says. "Most men in your position would not have." A faint tension moves through his jaw. "There was a time when I thought control was the same as protection," he admits. "I learned the hard way that it is not." Emily turns toward him fully. "What happened?" For a long moment, Daniel says nothing. The silence stretches, comfortable but charged. "Someone I trusted once used my name, my influence, to destroy someone else," he says finally. "I did not stop it fast enough. Since then, I have been careful. Distant." She hears what he does not say. "Guilt. Regret. I am sorry," she says simply. He exhales slowly. "That is why this arrangement exists. Rules. Distance. Safety." Emily nods. "I understand." Yet something about the way he says it tells her that the distance has never really kept him safe at all. They stand there for a while, not touching, not pretending. Just two people sharing a quiet truth neither of them planned to reveal. "I will not cross any lines," she says softly. "Not the ones we set." Daniel meets her gaze. "I know." There is a pause. A moment where something unspoken passes between them. When they turn back inside, the space between them feels different. Smaller. Not dangerous. Just changed. This was supposed to be a performance. Instead, it feels like the beginning of something neither of them is ready to name. The fallout does not arrive loudly. It arrives quietly, the way real damage often does. Emily Carter first senses it when the tone of the office shifts. Conversations stop when she walks past. Smiles linger a second too long, then disappear. Her inbox fills with meeting cancellations that come without explanation. By noon, the headlines begin to circulate. She sees them on a tablet left open in the conference room. CEO marriage raises questions. Inside the sudden wedding that shook Wright Industries. Was it love or strategy? Her stomach tightens. By the end of the day, the truth surfaces. Someone has leaked the contract, not the full document, just enough. A photograph of a signature page, a timestamp, a blurred paragraph mentioning terms and duration. The word arrangement highlighted in red. The story spreads faster than she can process it. By the time Emily reaches the lobby, reporters are already gathering outside the building. Questions fly the moment they see her. Was the marriage real? Were you paid? Did you deceive the public? She does not answer. She keeps walking, heart pounding, the noise crashing around her like waves. That evening, the backlash explodes. Social media turns cruel. Comment sections fill with accusations. Gold digger, actress, opportunist. People who have never met her decide who she is within seconds. Emily sits alone in her apartment, the city lights flickering outside the window, her phone buzzing relentlessly beside her. She does not pick it up. She waits for Daniel to call. He does not. Hours pass. When his name finally appears on her screen, it is almost midnight. "Emily," he says, his voice controlled but tight. "We need to talk." They meet in his office, the same space where rules were once calmly discussed. Tonight, it feels colder. The board is demanding answers, Daniel says, pacing once before stopping. Investors are threatening to pull out. They believe the marriage was a manipulation. Emily absorbs the words in silence. "And you?" she asks quietly. "What do you believe?" He hesitates. Just for a second. That hesitation is enough. Her chest tightens. "You knew this would happen," she says. "You told me the risk." "Yes," he replies. But not like this. Not publicly. Well, she looks at him, really looks at him, and understands something painful and clear. He is thinking like a CEO, not like a husband, not even like a partner in a shared decision. I will step away, she says suddenly. Daniel looks up sharply. What? I will leave, she continues, her voice steady despite the ache spreading through her chest. You can say you were deceived, that you did not know, that you were protecting the company. That is not acceptable, he says immediately. It is necessary, she replies. Your company matters more than my reputation. We both knew that. Silence fills the room. I never wanted you to be collateral damage, he says. Emily lets out a soft, bitter laugh. Then you should not have made me part of a strategy. The words hang between them. She reaches for the ring on her finger and slides it off, placing it gently on the desk. For what it is worth, she says. I never pretended with you. Daniel looks at the ring, then at her. Something in his expression fractures, but he does not stop her. Emily turns and walks out. Outside, the night air feels sharp against her skin. Cameras flash. Voices shout. She keeps her head down and moves forward, every step heavier than the last. By morning, the narrative is set. She is the lie, and Daniel Wright lets the world believe it. The world does not stop turning after Emily Carter walks away. For Daniel Wright, it becomes unbearable. The next morning, the boardroom is full. Advisors speak in measured tones about optics and damage control. Lawyers outline exit strategies. Public relations teams propose statements that shift blame quietly and efficiently. Daniel listens, and for the first time in years, he feels something break inside him. They talk about Emily as if she is a problem to be managed, a variable to be removed, a name that can be erased from the narrative if handled carefully. She will recover, one advisor says. The attention will move on. 8. Daniel looks at the glass table, at the reflection of his own face staring back at him. No, he says calmly. She will not. The room falls silent. He stands. There will be no statement blaming her, he continues. There will be no distancing language. There will be no suggestion that she deceived me. Someone begins to object. Daniel raises a hand. I am calling a press conference, he says, today. The advisors exchange uneasy glances. That would escalate things, someone warns. Daniel meets their eyes. Good. Within hours, cameras line the steps outside Wright Industries. Reporters crowd together, microphones raised, voices overlapping as Daniel steps forward alone. No Emily. No shield. He does not wait for questions. My name is Daniel Wright, he says evenly. And I want to be clear about something. The noise quiets. The marriage contract that has been circulating was real, he continues. I proposed it. I designed it. I asked Emily Carter to accept it. 1. Gasps ripple through the crowd. She did not deceive me, he says. I deceived myself. Questions explode, but Daniel does not stop. I told myself this was about control, about protection, about strategy. The truth is simpler and far less flattering. I was afraid. He pauses, then reaches into his jacket. He pulls out the contract, the original. In front of all of you, he says, holding it up. I am ending it. He tears the document in half. Then again, and again. The sound is sharp and unmistakable. This marriage is no longer a contract, Daniel says. If it ever truly was, the crowd erupts. And one more thing, he adds, his voice steady but charged. I fell in love with Emily Carter the night she was brave enough to walk away. The words land hard. I did not deserve her silence. I did not deserve her protection. And I will not let her be remembered as a lie when she was the only honest thing in this story. He steps back. The press conference ends in chaos, but Daniel is already moving. He finds Emily that evening in a quiet place far from cameras, a small community center where she has been volunteering, keeping her head down, trying to rebuild something that feels real. She looks up when he enters, surprise flickering across her face, quickly replaced by caution. "I am not here to ask you to fix anything," Daniel says. "I already did that." She studies him, guarded. "I am here to ask you something much harder," he continues. "To choose, freely, with no contract, no protection, no guarantees." Emily exhales slowly. "And if I say no, then I will accept it," he replies, "and spend the rest of my life knowing it was my fault." Silence stretches between them. Emily looks at him, searching for the man who hesitated, the man who let her walk away. She sees someone else now, someone standing without armor. "For once," she says quietly, "you are not asking me to pretend." Daniel shakes his head. "Not anymore." She takes a step closer. "Then let us be honest," she says. And for the first time since the church, the choice is finally hers. The weeks that follow are quieter. No cameras, no statements, no headlines screaming her name. Emily Carter returns to a life that feels smaller on the surface, but steadier underneath. She moves into a modest apartment near the community center where she volunteers, finding comfort in routine and faces that do not recognize her from the news. She works. She listens. She helps where she can. Slowly, the noise fades. Daniel Wright does not rush her. He does not call every day. He does not show up unannounced. When he reaches out, it is with honesty and patience, never expectation. Sometimes they talk for minutes, sometimes for hours, sometimes not at all. What grows between them is not spectacle. It is trust. Months later, on a quiet autumn afternoon, Emily agrees to meet him at the same church where everything once fell apart. There is no audience this time, no flowers lining the aisle, just sunlight filtering through stained glass and the soft echo of their footsteps on stone. They stand near the front, not on the altar. "I used to think that place represented failure," Emily says, looking around. "Now it just feels like a room." "Wooded." Daniel nods. "I thought power meant never needing forgiveness." He reaches into his pocket, not dramatically, not urgently. When he kneels, it is slow and deliberate, as if he has thought through every movement. "This is not a contract," he says quietly. "There are no terms, no timelines, no protection." He opens his hand. The ring is simple, nothing extravagant, chosen with care, not ego. "I am asking you to choose me," Daniel continues. "Not because you have to, not because it saves anyone, but because you want to." Emily feels the weight of the moment, not as pressure, but as clarity. "Yes," she says, "I do." Their wedding takes place weeks later. It is small. Her parents sit in the front row, hands intertwined, eyes bright with tears that come from relief rather than fear. A few friends attend, a few people from the community center. No press, no announcements, no spectacle. Daniel stands beside her, not as a billionaire, not as a CEO, but as a man who learned the cost of silence. When they exchange vows, there is no mention of forever as an obligation, only promises made with eyes open and hearts unguarded. "I choose you," Emily says, without pretending. "I choose you," Daniel replies, without hiding. Afterward, they celebrate with a simple dinner, laughter filling the space where tension once lived. There are no speeches about power or success, only gratitude. In the months that follow, change comes quietly. Daniel restructures parts of his company, not for optics, but for values. He creates initiatives that empower rather than control. Emily continues her work, eventually leading programs that expand the reach of the community center she once volunteered at. They walk side by side, not ahead of one another. The world moves on. But sometimes, late at night, Emily will catch Daniel watching her with a look that still surprises him, as if he knows how close he came to losing the one thing money could not protect. And Daniel will hear her laugh, free and unguarded, and remember the moment she placed the ring on his desk and walked away. That was the moment everything real began. Because love, in the end, did not arrive with a contract. It arrived with a choice. And this time, they both said yes.